Hello, what's up? It's Doug Cunnington here. This is the Friday Q&A. We're going to talk about affiliate marketing and other stuff. I got a couple questions that were sent in and some stuff like that. Give me a shout in the chat. I just heard myself, so that's good. Let me know where you're from. Say hello, all that stuff. I see Gaz from the UK is around. Marcus is here. What's up? We got Mark J. Wish you could be here. Happy holidays. Nice. He's asking a question already, and I'll come back to that. We have Arif, who's made a strong showing in the last few weeks. So good to have you all on. And I have been posting a few more things in the community tab. So do keep an eye out for that. I hear that the stuff that I post in the community tab can show up anywhere, like on your YouTube homepage or in the community tab, like you would expect. But I have been trying to post a little bit more there and just be a little more active. I'm not active in other like social channels, so I try to spend some time there since, well, I've spent so much time on YouTube. So, of course, we're just a few days before Christmas here, so happy holidays for everyone. Merry Christmas and all that stuff. And Alwyn's on here too. What's up? Good to have you. And let's see what other things. If anyone asked any questions in the Nope, no one asked questions in the old community tab. It's interesting because I think it takes a little while for them to surface, like the little community posts, but you know, it's all we could do. And I maybe my stuff isn't very engaging, so no one pays attention. And Arif says I can pronounce your name as Arif. Okay, got it. Thanks for the phonetics. It does make it easier. So I'm going to go through a couple of announcements before we get started, as I normally do. And where the heck is the description? Okay, so we answer questions today. And I will point you towards the FAQ section. So there's an FAQ section in which I answer a lot of frequently asked questions. I'll point you towards that area. But even if you if you don't have a specific question, that's a fun thing to read. I do have a productivity course. I don't push it too hard, but actually I'll start recommending it. If you are trying to get more stuff done in the new year coming up, a lot of people use the new year as sort of a trigger to set more goals. And if you found that maybe you're not setting goals as well as you hoped, or you sort of stall out when you start projects, actually, let me know in the chat here. Are you working on a few projects at a time and you find that you don't really complete very many projects, but you start a lot of them? That is a sign that you need to sort of do a better job with your productivity. So finishing projects is really important. I know a lot of people say they have ADD and they just can't focus. And I mean, it's a problem. So I'm not going to say it's BS exactly, but it's an excuse. If you're like, well, I just like to try new things and I just get distracted and blah, 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 it's a major problem. And focusing and completing projects is really important. You're better off finishing like one project and then moving on to the next versus working on like 5 things and never finishing them. Next, if you're new to affiliate marketing and what we're talking about here, the niche site process, another great link. All these are in the description, so you could have a look at those. There's playlists in there and so on and so forth. And before we move on further, I will say highly recommend you check out the Survive the 9 to 5 podcast. It's a podcast that my wife and I do together. We talk about corporate stuff and related things. I think there's an episode on like mini retirements and like saving for retirement, 401k, a lot of boring stuff, but you shouldn't ignore it. And the other thing is there's like 4 episodes at this point on productivity. They're the most recent ones. So if you are interested in like setting goals and that sort of thing, have a listen to those 4 most recent episodes. Okay, let's go back to the chat. And it's highly likely we're going to have a small number of people today. So we have 16 on right now, and it's just a few minutes after the hour. So I didn't share this around at all today. All right. So we have Mark asked, do I know anything about Builderall? No. Nope, I don't know anything about it. Why don't you tell us, Mark, a little bit about it? Like, is it one of those automated Amazon store things? And Ubid says, Happy holidays. Marcus says, Merry Christmas. We have some free time to focus on our sites. Indeed. All right, Hiking Gear Lab, what's up? Good to have you on. And Kenneth said, it's your first time catching me live. Awesome. Your question is, beyond Amazon monetization, do I have a preferred secondary monetization source? Generally, so I'll just answer the question. I think ads are probably a good second. I usually, most of my sites are just focused on affiliate like content and affiliate monetization. And I haven't experimented too much, but I am starting to work with media.net. So I'll probably bring you more information about that in the future. But I think ads, Kenneth, are probably a good way to go. Oh, for hands on, thanks for being a moderator. O2 is on as well. All right. So let's hit some of the questions that were these were asked on other videos and stuff over the past few days here. And by the way, if you're watching the replay or you think of a question later, please do leave a comment on the videos. I'm trying to go back and scour previous comments and sessions and just answer them to give me something to talk about while it's quieter in the chat room. A lot of times it takes a little while for the chat room to warm up. Notifications are slow to come out. I see more people are hopping on here. So welcome, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. And if you do ask the question in a comment, I will give you a shout out like this person, just live for the moment. It's just live for the moment. It's funny, when I was putting it in yesterday, I was like, I should read it wrong. And then I just did it by accident there. So just live for the moment. Hi, Doug. Great channel. Quick question. Do I think starting a blog about tech accessories could be profitable, even if the products are reviewed at many different sites, which are not niche sites, but just general tech sites? The answer is yes. And I know for a fact because there are like an endless number of tech review sites, tech review YouTube channels, and there are tons of tech products and accessories and whatever. So it can absolutely be profitable. I think it can be pretty competitive because of all the, products and all the players that are already out there. But that also means there's a ton of room for you to play. All right. There's a lot of people buying those products. Just me personally, I like gadgets and tech and all that stuff. And I have, little electronics and I have like a little recorder here that I showed off a few weeks ago. I got it used on eBay, but it's like one of these Zoom H4Ns. And I just like gadgets and tech stuff. So the answer is yes, just live for the moment. It can be pretty profitable. I think, you'd have to take sort of a long-term approach to it because of all the competition. Echo says, does my course include an intermediate session for those who have made money on Amazon, but they're really trying to boost things up? Echo, yeah. So I have a course out there called 5-Figure Niche Site, and the answer is yes. There's a basic sort of package. We'll call it a package. So there's a basic package. It's like 6 units, several hours of content. It'll get you from, start to finish. There are 5, I think, is that right? 5 additional advanced lessons where we talk about gray hat link building, which I don't recommend, but it's a valuable piece of knowledge to have. We go into email list building. We talk about other affiliate programs. Then we talk about selling a site. The other thing that you get, Echo, is a lot of times if you have a site that's making money already, you can go like most of the time, people have made some early mistake. It may be a small mistake, but let's say, for example, you did a poor job with on-site optimization, on-site SEO in general. You can go through the lessons, realize that you've made a mistake early on and make a change that you get an impact immediately on. So, for example, if you have a site, let's say it's making $200 a month, you go through and you realize, oh, I can actually make some changes pretty quickly. You will see an ROI faster than someone who's starting a site from scratch. So, in general, yes, the course is full of little nuggets of information. Then there are literally advanced units in there. So hopefully that answers your question, Echo. Fakir, I think we'll just say it. Fake year. Okay. I don't know. Hi, Doug. Can you please discuss, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Can I discuss the silo structure of an Amazon affiliate site? Sure. Why don't I draw it? And here's the thing. I don't recommend that you do this. I think it's not really a good use of your time. I'll make a quick sketch here. So a couple notes. I have a full like blog post. It's several thousand words that talk about the silo structure. So check it out. You could even like download like an e-book version of it or something like that. And it also doesn't matter if you have an Amazon affiliate site. This is a structure. This is a site architecture thing. This is not related to Amazon affiliate sites at all. It is completely agnostic to what your site content is. But basically, let's see how we do it. You're going to have, and I'll hold up the diagram in a second. You'll have parent pages, and then you will have child pages below. I should try and write legibly here and make sure that I don't have like a crude drawing when I hold it up here. We're going to end up with some sort of penis or something like that. It always seems to happen. All right. So you have these child structures, and really it's about interlinking in an intentional way. So when you think about it that way, it really doesn't matter if you have child pages or parent pages, or if it's a silo or not a silo. There are also diagrams on the silo structure on the post. All right. So this picture isn't that great. Actually, it's really awful. But you end up with what you see is, parent pages, which are linked to each other, and then child pages below it, which are also linked up and down. I didn't draw the lateral links, but there would be lateral links too. And it's just a very intentional way of interlinking your site. But here's the problem with it and why you shouldn't worry about it. Whenever you start your site, you kind of have to plan most of it out with a silo, and then you'll start doing stuff on your site, and then you'll realize you've made a little bit of a mistake because things aren't turning out exactly how you expected. And then you end up with a very long like URL slug for a certain page because you're structuring it as a silo, and it's hard to plan because things change. And it turns out like there's not much value in you planning it exactly and getting it right versus just posting everything as a post, publish everything as a post, and then you're going to be fine because it's adaptable. You can change it. It doesn't matter if it's a post or a page. And I'd rather have a short URL anyway. So overall, I would say don't worry about it. It's good to understand the linking structure, but I wouldn't worry about architecting a site like that. All right. So it's a huge waste of time, in my opinion, unless you're doing like some e-commerce site or something like that. That said, if you go to Niche Site Project, go to the blog section, click the Start Here page link in the menu, you will see that I have a silo structure for the niche site process. The link is actually in the description for that. So if you look at the main page and then the links for the subsequent lessons and phases of the process, you'll see that it's a full like silo structure. So if you want an example, you could check that out. Hey, Lance, what's up? Good to have you on. Alwayne says, when starting a new site, how much content do you aim for? Alwayne, go to the FAQ section and you can see exactly what I recommend. I think that's in there, but 10 posts, like 1,000 to 1,500 words each is what I recommend for most people. It's Awesome says, if I post one 8,000 word content on my new website, then work only with the one content. Is it indexed and come up on the top of Google? If you just, if that is all you were doing, actually, that's a bad question. It's Awesome. I'll just tell you straight up. That's a bad question. Go to the FAQ section. And basically that is a like impossible question to answer. There's a series of questions that are just like, if I do X, will Y happen? There's too many factors for me to answer. It is possible. So let me give you a scenario of why this is a bad question, and I'll give you a dumb answer. All right. Bad question. You get a dumb answer for me. All right. So rephrase it and think about actually what you want to know, because this is not going to be helpful for you. But part of this is just me talking and continuing to talk without dead air, which is a hard thing to do. So if you publish an 8,000 word post and it is a term which is very long and arbitrary, let's say let's say it's why is Doug's head so shiny on the live streams? That is a long phrase. And I'm pretty sure if you wrote 8,000 words on it and you titled it, if it was well optimized, maybe you have a couple screen grabs of my bald head shining, then almost without a doubt, you will rank #1 for that term. All right, you'll rank #1 for it. No one else on the internet is going to be competing for that term. Unfortunately, the bad thing is no one will be searching for it and won't make you any money. And it's not really an interesting topic to anyone other than probably me, maybe my dog, potentially my wife, but probably not. So not a good question because of that. So if you publish something that no one's searching for, you can rank #1, but it is not helpful. So if you want to rethink, and if you're only posting one piece of content, that has nothing to do with whether your site is indexed. It is completely irrelevant. If you want your site to be indexed, all you have to do is go to the Search Console, make sure you're hooked up there. You could fetch your homepage, crawl the site, you're good to go. So it's awesome. Think about what you really want to do and then ask another question. All right. Ubid says, when we try to search all in title and get results that are different, as we should use all in title, just want to know the answer. So typically I just check once and then move on. I know a lot of people have mentioned this. A lot of times like your IP address and your location makes a difference, but I haven't seen this very often. But I've heard of like a lot of people have said, hey, I see different results come up. I don't know why that is, but I usually just look once and move on. So you could take my approach where you just look it up and then move on, or you can continue to look it up and see if you find a consistent answer. Again, sometimes geography makes a difference there. Guys, what's up? In my opinion, the question is this. In my opinion, do I think site visitors are more likely to leave a site early when they see a free theme as to when they see for a paid theme? The answer is no. I think they will leave if the site looks crappy and they are not finding the information that they want. So for example, any of the WordPress themes that are free look pretty decent if you put a little effort into it. They all look clean. They're not filled with like noise as far as like distracting elements. They're often very simple. And I just saw that WordPress 2019 just came out, and I haven't played with it, but one of the big advantages is that it works with Gutenberg, the new editor, which that's kind of a nice plus as far as having it compatible, right? Any of the WordPress themes are going to be the most compatible with the default like WordPress tools and the dashboard and the admin panel in general. So overall, I don't think the paid versus free matters. I've seen some paid themes that were terrible, and I've seen some free themes that are great. Adventure, what do you think, guys? Actually, everyone, leave in the chat, like, what do you think? Do you think free themes are bad inherently because they're free, and paid themes are better inherently because you have to pay for them? And then if you're watching the replay, which I know a lot of people do, actually most of the views come in the replays. So thanks folks for watching. Leave a comment. Would like to hear your thoughts on themes. The Adventures of Z-Man says, I really like your videos and the way I discuss stuff in an easy to understand way. Thanks. Your question is, do I have a suggestion on how to develop a passive income with products like ebooks? So I would recommend, so I'm not an expert in this area by any means. I would say focus most likely on like the Amazon Kindle model, because that seems to be the biggest marketplace. And a lot of times it's really hard to market whatever it is you're selling because you have to build up an audience. If the audience is already in existence, Amazon Kindle, for example, Kindle Unlimited, stuff like that is probably the easiest way to get moving. And the other part is it will be a lot of work up front, and then it will be very hard. However long you think it's going to take, triple it. And then you're probably closer to halfway. So basically everything is going to be a little harder than you think, and it will take far longer than you ever imagined. But I hope that you enjoy reading and writing and like understand the ecosystems that you may be dealing with. The downside, of course, to selling on the Kindle platform is the prices that you could charge are pretty low, just in general. But there are people who spend a lot of time, like their whole thing is ebooks. Like mine is generally Amazon affiliate stuff. So some people spend time on ebooks and all that. So I would definitely check out what they have to share. Mike's on, what's up? And Farouk says Silo is awesome. Okay. John says, hi Doug, should we go for Web 2.0 or PBN links for search volumes of below 500? Buyer intent keywords, low competition for Amazon affiliate sites. So I don't personally use Web 2.0 or PBN links. So if you want to, you can. I would probably say like PBN links are probably going to be way more effective. I think Web 2.0 backlinks at this point are probably not very useful, other than to like dilute your or alter your anchor text distribution. But in general, I would skip both of those personally, but PBNs would actually make a difference. Mike says, how do you remove the date on your post in SERPs? That is theme dependent, Mike. So you have to check that out with your theme generally. Freddie says, kindly tell us what kind of backlink we should use for an Amazon affiliate site. So just go to the FAQ section. There's a link in the description, and I talk about backlinks and stuff like that. And basically, I generally recommend blog commenting and then guest posting. Next, Freddie also says, for a new site, should we place the content in pages or posts, and how many words per page? So Freddie, it's going to blow your mind when you head over to the FAQ section, where I answer many questions just like the one you're asking here. I generally, for the content, you can do whatever you want, pages or posts. It really doesn't matter. I generally recommend post, but if you, for some reason, like to use pages instead, you can do that. Generally, pages are for like the about page, disclaimer page, maybe your home page, and posts are for everything else generally. But if you wanted to, you can use them either way. Nico says, it's always great to listen. You want to ask about one-on-one coaching. Do I give an overview of your approach? Do I come up with an action plan and a follow-up? Yes. So I recently updated my Hire Me page, Nico. So generally, we could talk about whatever you want. All right. We can talk about whatever you want. So if you want to hear just an overview of the approach, you can totally do it. If you just want an overview of my approach, go to the niche site process. And that's literally the overview. All right. So the goal, though, is to come up with an action plan in which you execute it or hire people to execute or whatever in the coming, like however long you need. Right. So I can help you come up with that. One of the things that I'm realizing, and I actually did like 2 of them this week, is just site audits where someone, they've been working on their site and they're too close to it. They know they need to make some changes, but they look at it and they've done what they think they should do, but they need someone to go and tear down the site and say, hey, that's too many affiliate links, or why is your table like that? Like, change your table, do this, do that. You don't have a call to action, that sort of thing. And then we'll create an action plan based on that. Okay, and people are talking about themes here, which is cool. So Alwayne says, you always start with a free theme. Marcus says, the only thing you worry about with free themes is lack of support. True. Cool. So overall, that's one of the things. So at least with a paid theme, like, you get support. You can get some support in, I think, like the WordPress forums, where there are pretty knowledgeable people that try and help you use like the default themes. But a lot of times the one issue, which would be pretty easy to fix, but like with the free themes, particularly the WordPress versions, they have like a page and a post template, and then they don't really have other templates where maybe there's no sidebar, or it depends on the theme, of course, and you can configure some things, but I imagine you could probably hire a developer to create like a couple templates and just say, hey, I want to have like a narrow landing page, and I want to have like this, 3 widgets in the footer or something. And then they could probably, a developer could probably do it really easily. But like for me, I have no idea how to do that. Oh, Grant's on. So hello. Okay, so Z-Man says, just to clarify, you're talking about ebooks that are downloadable, that can be bought from affiliate sites, like exercise books and fitness sites. All right, now let me look at your original question. And a suggestion on how to develop a passive income with ebooks that you sell from an affiliate site. Okay. Yeah, so just super easy. That's way easier than the Amazon approach to me, in my opinion, and way more profitable. Start an email list, sell your product. I would probably use Gumroad for the fulfillment. I've done this a couple times, and I think it worked fine. Just in general, it was a fairly inexpensive ebook. Experimented with different prices from like $7 to $40 or so, and sold a handful of them. And it was interesting. It's a good skill to learn. Grant says, if one of my sites had 30 articles and not making money, would I keep adding articles or let it stew for a while and start another site, or do both? Well, it depends on so many things, Grant. And this is one of the times where my answer is not going to be super helpful, because I literally need to look at the site. So if the site's getting plenty of traffic and not making money, then I would try and figure out why it's not making money. My assumption is that it's not getting traffic either. Otherwise, maybe you would have mentioned it. So I would try and figure out why the 30 plus articles are not ranking or getting traffic, and then solve that problem, adding more articles and doing the same thing that continues to not work is kind of a bad idea. However, right, I think some models for creating niche sites, they tell you to just keep publishing content for 6 months to 18 months or something like that until you start getting traffic. But the thing is, you don't know if you screwed up, if you get no feedback. So I would probably not start another site either, because what's worse than one site with 30 posts that's not making any money? Well, that's 2 sites, right? Or 3 sites that have 30 posts, they're not making any money. So you need to figure out what the issue is before you start replicating your mistake. That is the worst thing you can do. Gaz says, you agree that free themes work well in the WordPress environment and they're slick looking. It depends on what information and products you want to present. You use both. Cool. Mike says some free themes are good and clean with great functionality. Nice. Yeah. And I think it totally, it totally depends. I've seen some paid themes that look terrible. So, I mean, I guess it just depends. Oh, and Justin is on. How's it going, man? Haven't heard from you in a bit. O2 says, when I talked about WordPress themes, you wondered, are those themes best for mobile responsiveness? I haven't checked specifically, but my assumption is the default WordPress themes are going to be some of the best. Just it's probably going to be plain vanilla functionality most of the time, but generally, like, it's probably going to work pretty well. All right, and Steve is on. Good to have you on. Let's see. All right, trying to make it through here. Grant says, do I do much ClickBank? No. Are they good to throw in the mix into an Amazon affiliate site? That's totally up to you. So it's really like sort of industry dependent. So if there's products, then yes. But generally, you're not going to sell many of those. But if you have, like, something that fits in perfectly, if you have a fitness site or something like that, I'm sure there's like good fitness products that you can, push. Also, I think it's probably helpful to have an email list at that point so you can market it more effectively versus like having someone just land on a review page. You could actually like generate more interest in a specific product with an email list. All right. I'm going to hop over to some of the stuff that were sent, questions that were sent in. So we have Amir asks, the KGR formula, what the heck does that say? KGR formula on those keywords that have a search volume less than 250. It's not implementing on high search volume like 500 or 1,000 search volume. So to rephrase that person's question, they want to know why it's only for search volumes under 250. It's because it works. If you want the full answer, you can go to the playlist for the Keyword Golden Ratio Masterclass. There's one called Why Under 250, the Keyword Golden Ratio. And then I explain a couple more reasons. Mainly, you'll be able to rank if the search volume is under 250. If the search volume is over 250, the likelihood of you ranking changes, especially for a brand new site. If your site's older, if you have a bunch of backlinks, then you could be a lot more liberal. You can play around with the formula if you want to. But if you're asking questions like why 250, then you're probably starting out in lower volume search terms, just have less competition. So that's part of the reason it works. Let's see here. Okay, Unbiased Review says, what theme do I recommend for Amazon affiliate sites? If you go to the FAQ section, you can get information on that. In fact, everyone, if you haven't read the whole entire FAQ page, I mean, I'm going to paste it in the chat so you can get to it as well. Just read that. The first question is, what's the best WordPress theme? And I don't necessarily think it's the best theme, but it's some themes that I recommend. Well, you know what I say? It's like what beer is best, right? It's the beer that you're drinking right now. All right. So what theme is best? If you already own a theme, just use that one. I don't really care what theme your site's made with. That is the least of your worries. Mike says, would I build links to a money post that's ranking on position 4, but owns the featured snippet? Probably not. I mean, if you are building links to that, it means you're not building links to something else. So if you wanted to, you could, but you don't have to. And the thing is with the featured snippets, sometimes, I mean, they bounce around, right? So you can, yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine either way. John says, I say to add YouTube videos to your posts. Does Google favor ones that I created and added to my post versus just adding one from someone else? I don't think, yeah. How would Google know that? How does Google know your site and rankings in YouTube? I guess if they were, yeah, it doesn't matter, John. It doesn't matter. Post the best videos that you could find. If you have your own, I would probably post those, right? Why not? You have like a nice ecosystem there, but I don't think it's going to improve your rankings or anything like that. Kevin, what's up? All right, Gaz says you follow Alex and you have a WooCommerce site. It uses Kingdom, which is great. And actually, one of the sites that I recently audited was a WooCommerce site, and it was just, the whole thing was a mess. And I think, you know, Alex and I actually have a video on, I mean, I think using WooCommerce is a huge waste of time and resources, but I've never created one of those sites, but every site that I've seen or encountered using WooCommerce is like a train wreck. Just awful. So I'm sure it can be implemented in a way. And everyone, please correct me. Tell me I don't know what I'm talking about or whatever, but I have not seen one where I'm like, oh, it's a good implementation. And it's a smart move. It looks like a good site. There's a lot of nice, unique content. Basically, all of the WooCommerce sites that I see are like, you know, 400 products. It's all stripped content, scraped content from the Amazon listing, and basically the people are not ranking well. But tell me I'm wrong, because I just haven't seen it. Maybe it's only the troubled children that come to me and they're like, hey, my site's not ranking, but like, I don't know, I did this WooCommerce thing and blah blah blah. So anyway, the site that I audited yesterday, it was like loading in like 12 plus seconds, and they had all these products on there, and it just, I don't know. So anyway, some people like WooCommerce and they make cool videos as far as like Amazon affiliate, like how to build a site. And again, check out the conversation that Alex and I had about WooCommerce versus just having a site where content is first. Okay. Adventures of Z-Man says, have I tried other affiliate programs? A little bit. Not either one of those. You mentioned AliExpress and GearBest, sorry. Can I advise if it's any good? I would say focus first on Amazon, and then if you want to, you can add other ones. But in general, if you have the right traffic and you have a decent amount of traffic, you should be able to monetize really well with Amazon. Kevin also says, have I heard of Chase Rayner? I've heard of Chase Rayner, but I don't know anything. I don't follow him or anything like that. Okay. O2 says, I think I'm in the sandbox. I can see your poster getting more impressions. Is that a good thing? Yes. It is a good thing. Okay, and Gaz says, "Oh dear, LOL." All right. Oh, Bruce, what's up? Good to see you on here. Wesley says you become skeptical of Chase Rayner since he did the whole "you don't need links" thing. Since links are one of the biggest ranking factors. Yeah. And you know what? It's interesting around like. Well, I mean, the keyword golden ratio, one of the best videos is on like, oh, content plan without backlinks. Like it can work really well. I think a lot of people here have tried the keyword golden ratio and it's worked. But then there's some like good marketability about like, hey, you can do this and you can kind of ignore this other stuff. You know what works better is like, good keyword research and then building links. Like that works really well. And then there's other videos, right? Like the income school guys, they're like, hey, stop doing keyword research. Of course, they do a level of keyword research, but they're like, hey, stop using tools like this. And like, there's good marketability from, I guess, like an influencer standpoint where we're like, hey, like focus on this part. Like, here's our unique take. And we have to get your attention with a dumb headline, a clickbait type thing. So anyway, I think it's probably a good way for Chase. I don't know Chase at all. Maybe I should interview him on the channel. It's a good way to differentiate yourself to say, oh, you know what? Don't do this when everybody else is doing it. Everyone else is going for like higher volume keywords. And I'm like, go for the lowest volume keyword you can and, focus over there. Steven says, I look tired. Maybe I should drink more water. Get those wrinkles to go away, get the hair growing back. Okay, and Kevin says, and this is why it's kind of all right. So Kevin says, I've never built a single backlink and you get 20,000 page views a month on a site that's less than a year old. Use the KGR, but now technical on page is where it's at. So Kevin, if you build links to it, it'll probably be better. And you're saying, okay, you don't build links, you get links. Fair enough. I think a blend is good. And I know, actually, I haven't featured him yet, but friend of mine, he's doing really well and he loves link building. So he focused a lot on content, but he loves the link building portion. It's really interesting. It's like some people gravitate towards the content side and others gravitate towards the link building side and outreach. And I think the combination is probably best, but if you have skills in one area, then focus on that. And it sounds like generally, Kevin, like you're happy with where you're at. I think 20,000 page views is great, but like, could it be better if you got links? And that's the question. Like, Kevin, are you saying links don't matter? I don't think so, because you're saying you get links, and that's kind of the point. It's like one has to spend effort areas in different areas. Okay. I'm rambling on here. So another question that was sent in is, I have a question. Do we set our keywords everywhere search results in a specific country? For example, the United States, or do we have the global result? Local. You do local. And I recommend the US if that's what you're targeting. So, another question here. Game on Music has a nice tangent question that we can get into while I wait for some more questions in the chat. Um, can I talk a little bit about guitars and my history with music? Yeah, so I just have one acoustic guitar right now. I have a Fender, I think it's a DG21S, and I got it about 20 years ago in college. And there's a few scratches on it, but it's in generally like pretty good shape. And I had a few electric guitars. So I had like sort of an old beater. It was a like a Yamaha, like a Strat style that I had for probably like 10 years or so. But one of my friends was up here visiting, and he wanted to like play some guitar. And I was like, hey, you know what? Why don't you just take it with you? Like, you could have it. I don't play it that often. And I actually used to use that when I traveled for a little while. I would like bring it to my hotel and leave it in the storage closet, at least on one or two projects. And then I would play it at the hotel there with one of my friends who also brought his guitar. And I also had a Epiphone Elitist Les Paul Standard. I had that also for about 10, 11 years. And I traded that in, and I had a Fender Pro Junior amp, which is, I think it was a 5-watter. Is that right? 5 watts or 15 watts. It was a low wattage, but it was still like insanely loud. And I mainly just played the acoustic guitar anyway. So it was kind of sitting there, but I always liked it. I liked the Les Paul sound and the look and all that stuff. Also, just a quick note, I'm not a very good guitar player. Like, I've gone through stretches where I've like tried to play more and like practice, but I can usually like I can play like many different chords and handle, like, if you're like, hey, here's a song and here are the chords and stuff, I could usually pick it up. Let's see, what else do we have going on as far as guitar? So anyway, I traded in that Les Paul last year along with the amp to get a banjo for my wife. So she plays the banjo a little bit. Also not very good, but a little bit. So anyway, I like guitars and stuff, but I haven't been playing very much in the last like year or so. All right. Unbiased Review says, can I explain the ranking strategy of 10 beasts? No, not on the fly. That would mean like I have some sort of like knowledge already about like the ranking style or whatever. But I think they did a lot of scholarship link building. I think there may have been some 301 redirect action and probably a lot of outreach and stuff, but I'm not 100% sure. And Grant is out. See you later, buddy. Marcus says to drink more beer. Success. Roller coasters on. What's up? Okay, and I think I caught up on the questions here. And Wesley says, by the way, so Kevin, that's terrific. But if you haven't seen the power of links, then how are you going to know? And I would generally, learning stuff is good. And I mean, you can do a lot without backlinks, but there are things you could do to not directly build backlinks, yet they come. All right, WorldMart says, right now you have 7 articles and you started to expedite traffic with AdWords, but your conversion rate is crappy with 100 visitors a day. How can I improve? I would, that is not going to work really well. So I recommend you don't do that. If you know how to run AdWords and stuff like that, then figure out how to like optimize the ads or whatever. But basically, like, that's not going to work out for you if you're not like an ads expert. All right. Ubad says, dough. This is an interesting thing. We'll just pause here and go on a tangent. So a lot of times people misspell my name as dough. It's actually Doug. There's no H on the end. Dough is like pizza dough, bread dough, stuff like that. Doug is different, like Douglas. like the name. But I know that in my corporate days, I had a lot of coworkers and friends from India and Pakistan, and a lot of times they would misspell my name with Doe. And I'm just curious. We'll take a little poll. Is that a lot of times does an H come after a G, and it's just natural for you to write the Doe? And I even see it on emails that I get nowadays, and I'm like, it happens. Or you know what? The G and the H are right next to each other on the keyboard. Maybe it's a little fat finger action, but it happens like all the time. So your question. Oh yeah, you asked a question. You've heard that making many blog comments for a site is not good. Okay, super easy. If you go ask whoever said that it wasn't good and see what they think. And if you think it's bad, then don't do it. All right. If you think it's bad, don't do it. I'm not pressuring you into it. And you're asking if you do 5 backlinks daily, that will be totally fine. Only a fraction of them are going to be approved anyway. So you don't have to worry about it. The problem is if you do them in an automated fashion and you're using software to do it, then you're going to have some problem. If you just do them manually, you can do like 20 a day and it's going to be just fine. And let me know about that Doe thing. Really curious. Anyone else see that? I mean, it's just all the time. Anyone have their name misspelled often? I guess that's what I get for mispronouncing about 50% of the names here. Okay. And Kevin says you create solid content and people link to it, but you don't go out and try and build them for backlinks. That's all you were saying. If you went out and built them, you would feel like you were building a liabilities. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. And there's a lot of people who are just like, I'm never going to build any backlinks ever. And you like over time, if you're good, you will get some backlinks, particularly if you're using the KGR, like you're going to rank for some stuff. Unbiased Review says, what kind of domain name do you recommend? EMD, PMD, or brand name? Brand. For people that don't know, EMD is an exact match domain, which was like very 2007. PMD is a little more modern, maybe 2012 or something like that. Brand name is kind of what you should do. And Z-Man says, I don't think the H at the end comes at a lot. I don't think the H in the end comes a lot of times because of autocorrect. And you're right, being next to the G is next. Okay. Oh yeah, and Steven says people butcher his last name all the time. Yeah, and I don't know. I have a feeling there must be some word that's like really similar, or maybe Doug is super uncommon, but Doe is very common for some reason. All right, how often do I post? You have a bunch of articles for a fresh site. Should you post them all, or should I post one a day? You can just post them all. Just post them all, especially if it's a fresh site. Get it out there, published as soon as possible so it'll move up. Kevin says the KGR is killer for a new site. If you want to get out of the sandbox, that's what you need to do. Cool. Kevin, it would be really helpful, interesting, slightly helpful for me if you send me just some information about your site. Just shoot me an email, doug@nichesiteproject.com. Just always interested to hear people that use the KGR and then made it work. WorldMart says, is MarketMuse helpful for articles or is there a better solution? So I got a demo from MarketMuse and it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm pretty sure it's like the best solution out there. I think there are some other tools that do similar things, but do you know WorldMart? Do you know how much MarketMuse is? Do you have any clue how much it costs? Joe says, I use YouTube videos we make for backlinks. Nice. You try to at least make 10 videos that have to do with a niche and add a bunch of backlinks in the description. How do I feel about this? I think that can be fine. If they're getting views, that's great. If it pushes traffic over, I don't know. I would recommend from a like persuasion and copywriting standpoint to add like the one most relevant link in there, not a bunch of backlinks. So, an unbiased review says, a lot of times use G and H words. Oh, G and H. So that's why they misspelled the name. That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. Ron says, what are my top 3 tips for killer articles? Number 1, good keyword research. Number 2, no grammar mistakes. And number 3, interesting to read. I think if you do those things, you're going to have a much better time ranking. But I really don't do the top 3 tip kind of thing. So those are just off the top of my head. Those are the first 3. So it's not my top 3. Those are the first 3 things. And yeah, really hard to come up with something on the fly. O2 says, is asking Kevin about the new site and so on. Okay, cool. Let's see if there's any other questions that were sent in here. Let me check to see. And I'll just talk a little bit here now. So one thing I want to emphasize that I mentioned earlier, but we have a few more people on. Do check out the Survive the 9 to 5 podcast. My wife and I chat on there, and it is on working a corporate job and or not working a corporate job. Like I don't work one anymore. And I think some of the productivity episodes are very interesting because, well, number 1, they are the latest, most recently published episodes. So we're a little bit better than we were in the beginning, which, you know what, we weren't terrible. Although we recorded the first 2 episodes like 3 times or something. So the third version is the one that we actually published. And it was just like, you're a little nervous, but the one thing is generally the audio quality is pretty good. We did have to play around with like the noise gate level and stuff like that, but generally the audio is pretty good. We're using like, actual microphones and stuff, not just our phones or anything like that. And what else? If you are interested in actually, finishing some projects next year, highly recommend my productivity course. There's a link in the description. Unbiased review says, do I write the content myself? With a smiley. So kidding around, of course. Of course not. I don't. For the people that don't know, Kevin says you used the KGR when you started, but you expanded some posts and targeted tougher keywords. Yep, exactly. So that's the 2.0. Thanks, Kevin, for sending the email. That is the 2.0. Basically, like what happens is, and people miss this, like they end up not believing in the beginning, but what happens is you rank for terms that have a higher search volume. So a lot of people are like, I'm not going to go for terms if they only have like 10 searches per month. Doug's idea is stupid. It doesn't work. I've heard other people say it doesn't work, even though there's like dozens of people literally saying that it works. You start ranking for terms that are higher search volume, more competitive on the page that was a KGR term, because you actually got traffic on there and traction. So that's why it works. All right. Sebastian, what's up? you say, what's my wife's job? So she does, she's like a grant coordinator at a hospital, or at least like works in the grant coordination area. But she did management consulting in the healthcare area, basically until last couple of years. So we were in consulting, management consulting, and Ubat says, sorry to misspell the name, and so on and so forth. No problem. I'm called much worse than dough. And I love pizza, so it's all good. Zeman says, if I don't have any specific questions, can I pick 2 topics? If I don't have any specific questions, can I please pick 2 topics to suggest for 3 stages: beginner, no site, intermediate, and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Let me try and reread that. I'm not sure I follow you. It sounds like a lot of stuff I've already talked about, but I'll reread it in a second here. Okay. There's nothing else to reread, I guess. I thought there were more things coming. Okay. 2 topics. Pick 2 topics to discuss for 3 stages: beginner, intermediate, and expert. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Got it. Okay. So number 1, for beginners with no site, the number 1 thing is to do something. Do anything. Just pick something. And stick with it for some given amount of time. It needs to be enough time. So I'm going to say 4 to 6 months minimum. So pick something and work on it for 4 to 6 months. The second thing is to not skip around. So the worst thing you could do is pick something and work on it for like 6 weeks. Let's say it's an affiliate site. So you work on that for 6 weeks, and then you hear some podcast and you're like, oh, this person's doing FBA. And then you switch over to FBA. And then you hear another podcast or read a blog post and you see drop shipping seems to be really awesome. Shopify, blah, blah, blah. And then you move over again and you're spending like 6 weeks on something over and over again. You're making like beginner mistakes in each of those areas and then not capitalizing on the knowledge that you gained by the mistake. And moving around is just a bad idea. So pick something and work on it if you're a beginner. If you're intermediate with, by the way, I don't necessarily agree with the intermediate beginner based on the timeframes, but I'll just go with what you said. So you're intermediate with less than 6 months. At that point, I would say like keep pushing forward. Check and see what's working. For example, see which pages are getting traffic, see what's ranking, what's working well. Do more of that. Do not, the second topic for the intermediate is don't try to like push things uphill, right? So if something is not working, let's say you're ranking 40th for a term, don't try and make that one move up, right? Focus on stuff that's working pretty well. If you have stuff ranking in the top 10, work on that. Don't work on the thing where you're trying to go from like number 40 to number 10. Go from like number 9 to number 1. That's better. And then for expert, if you're an expert, you don't need to hear. But I would say if you're only 12 months in, then you probably need to figure out about like, should you be spending more time on content or link building or something else? Maybe you hate it and you want to sell your site. Next. Okay. And there is a little bit of a slowdown. So who in the chat has listened to Survive the 9 to 5? Last week we had a handful, maybe half dozen folks, and I could see that a few people downloaded those. And Kevin's dropping some knowledge in there about like repurposing content, stuff that didn't rank well the first time, and so on. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just being patient for all the steps. And I think earlier I mentioned whatever thing you're working on, like it's probably going to take longer than you think, triple the time, and then you're probably closer to like what the actual amount of time is going to take. And like actually a good example, if you look at YouTube is a really good example. So I've spent a pretty good amount of time working on YouTube, and it's been a ton of work just to get to 10,000 subscribers. Like how many videos do I have? Let's see. How many videos do I have out there? Where do I even see that? All right. I think it's in my, where is this thing? $670, and this is probably 671 or something like that. Well, and the thing is, I didn't have a specific like goal in mind. I was like, oh, you know what? It looks like this is a good platform. I've wanted to do videos for a long time. It's a good platform to like teach more and build like a connection. And I had a choice, I guess, of like doing this or a podcast. Although I didn't think of it that way, I just kept putting off the podcast, and it was kind of natural. The ecosystem is already here for YouTube. There's already an audience. I already had like the platform to be able to publish videos and all that. So a little less friction, and just slowly I went from a couple more videos here and there to a bunch of live streams and webinars and stuff to publishing, a few videos a week for a while. And just really slowly it grew. And it's one of those deals where at the beginning it was I was like more nervous, right? So even to do one of these live streams, I was like, all right, I got to be prepared, like really, sort of be focused, and I was more nervous. But like anything, like we adapt to it pretty quick. So the more you do, the easier it gets. And I could like before I came over here, like I made some breakfast and, and ate with my wife. And then like 2 minutes before this started, I ran in here. And I was like, oh, closing windows, making sure the microphone was on and stuff, and then just hit play. And now we're just talking, and I'm rambling on about maybe someone asked a question. Probably not. I'm just talking here. And it's good. I could just chat about whatever. And it brings me back to like the podcast I've kept talking about, like the podcast that my wife and I do. So check that out, Survive the 9 to 5. But I'm probably going to do my own in the new year. I kind of want to talk like more in depth on affiliate marketing. But as I looked at the podcasts that I like to listen to, and I think about how the YouTube channel is, I was like, I want to talk about all the stuff that I'm interested in. So for example, of course, on YouTube, I could publish whatever I want. It's kind of, I guess, accepted. You could publish some affiliate marketing stuff, and I could do some vlog stuff, but I could see when I publish the vlog material, people don't care as much, right? Those videos don't get as many views. And I'm making them for myself, right? So I'm kind of, boxed in a corner where I'm like, oh, if I want the video to do well on YouTube, then I need to like stick to the topic that everyone wants to hear me talk about. But for the podcast, my own podcast, I was like, well, maybe I should just talk about what I want to talk about. So maybe there's some beer stuff in there. Maybe I talk to some of my friends who have started businesses in town, or that they left a corporate job and they work somewhere else. And I just want to have side conversations to record, or go deep on affiliate marketing. And terrible comparison because it's one of the biggest podcasts out there. But like the Joe Rogan podcast, he talks about, UFC, the fighting, and he talks about productivity, talks about fitness. Maybe like half of his guests are other comedians. So the point is, there are shows out there where like people just cover everything. So I think patience is key. And I think that Kevin's mention of patience is the hardest part. It's across the board, right? So everything takes longer. YouTube took me a long time. If I have no like bigger goals or whatever, it's really about, producing content, and the other stuff is going to come along the way. I'm learning, right? I've learned how to present better. I've learned how to make videos that are slightly more interesting across hundreds of them. I've gotten a little bit better with that portion of it. And I think the podcast will help as well, as far as communicating and I guess making interesting content that people will listen to. Okay. O2 says, Kevin said earlier about targeting tougher keywords by expanding post. Do I have a video or a post explaining how to do something like that? Yes. There are probably 5 or 6. There's some content on my blog as well. Search for the FAQ method and the RPM. Those are the 2. There's like full hour-long trainings on those. Kevin says, you have an actual question. It took a while to get it. How big of a drop in traffic will you see after the holidays? Impossible to say. A lot of times if your site's in the growth mode, which it sounds like it does, and it is in the growth mode, it may not drop down much at all. It may just level off. So I have a few sites that did that, where they were sort of in a growth trajectory. They jumped up in, say, like October. This is like last year and a couple years ago, jumped up in October and then like leveled off after that. So if it's in a growth phase, it may just level off. Otherwise, it could drop. Usually January is on par with November, and then February will drop down quite a bit. Totally, depends on what the niche is and all that. Next guy says, it's humbling when you see traffic creep up and then make some sales. Small wins are great early on. Yeah, super important, guys. Like, I think a lot of people, they don't realize it. And the problem is, we mentioned it earlier, it's like, okay, I've been working on it. I think Grant was asking this. So have a site, 30 posts. There's no earnings. Should I keep publishing there or start a new site? Really, you got to figure out what's wrong. The problem is, if you hear people that are like, just keep publishing. If it's really good, Google will send you traffic. It will just work out. It can just work out, but man, it sure is hard to just have faith that it's going to work out without like any sign, any proof that it's going to work out. So yeah, the small wins are really important, and that is why the KGR is like so effective and that's why there was a point where I was like, oh, do I want to hold this and just keep it for the course, or do I want to tell people about it? And generally, when I was like hearing people talk about stuff, content and information, usually when they shared it, that's when good things happened, right? Like more people got the information and it helped more people. So overall, I think that's one reason why the KGR works so well, is it gets people to believe that this stuff can work, and they actually get traffic on their site when they never got traffic before. Oh, Marco, what's going on, man? What's new for the new year? So I was just chatting with my wife. So for Survive the 9 to 5, we're going to be talking about like side hustles. So I'll put some interviews that actually were on the YouTube channel over the last year or so, interviews that I've done with some of my friends on just side hustles and stuff. And then we'll sort of see where it goes from there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be launching my own podcast, which I'll probably talk about a whole lot. And then other than that, just normal stuff that I have been working on. Unbiased Review said, should we target 2019 keywords from now? If you want to, that is totally fine. Yeah. And I think the Yoast SEO tool has variables that you could put in. The year is one of them, so you don't have to change it manually. I think that's probably easier. Yeah. So Elliot is asking about 10 Beasts as well. Everyone seems to be real interested in it. Yeah, I've heard of 10 Beasts. I'm not affiliated with it or anything like that. And I don't know any, like someone asked earlier, like, can I outline the backlink link building plan or whatever? I can't. I don't know. But if you just go to Ahrefs, probably see exactly what they did. All right. Any other questions out there? Okay. David, what's up? You've been doing keyword research. Sometimes you find competitors that have a DA30, but they don't focus on that keyword. Can you outrank them with a new site? I don't know. It depends on the keyword. The DA is not as important as, say, the PA, or the searcher intent is also important. But I mean, this is another one of those questions, David, where it's like, I'm just speculating, right? I guarantee you 100% you can find examples of brand new sites that outrank another site that has a higher DA, multiple years old. And there are plenty of other examples where a site didn't beat them. So it's not super helpful for me to say, yes, you can outrank them, because there are scenarios in which both cases can happen. If you're asking if you should let the DA30 scare you away, it shouldn't. If you're going to make it work, you can make it work, for sure. And let's see here. Any other questions out there? Any other questions? Yeah, you know, there were a couple of sort of like mindset questions, so maybe this is a good tangent to go on here. So David asked, could you outrank it? And like, and basically you're like, oh, should I do this thing? Basically, yes. Like, always take action, like do the thing. If you're like, I'm not sure if this will work, like try it. If you ask someone, especially in this format, like I have no idea about the keywords or the site or anything like that, so it's very limited information. It's like calling in a I mean, hopefully these are helpful. I think they are helpful, but it's like me calling in to like a doctor on a radio show and like trying to get diagnosed for baldness, right? So it's like really hard to get good information without the details. All right. So the answer is yes. Generally, you should try it. You will almost, even if it doesn't work, you'll have more knowledge than you did before, and you will have learned something along the way. So if you can't like learn something along the way, then you should figure out something else to do where you can, you know, either be successful, or if you fail, you'll learn something along the way. Gaz says, one of your sites is getting 60 to 70 visitors on one day, 0 the next, 100 and the next. Is that the Google Dance? Probably. You don't mention where the traffic's coming from. So if the traffic, you're just saying you're getting visits, but if the traffic is from social, then obviously it's independent of Google. The Google Dance, you would actually be able to observe pretty readily by your search rankings. So that would be going from number 11 to number 1, or like number 2, and then drop back down to 12, and then you hop up to number 1 for a day, and then you drop back down. So look at your rankings. That would be the Google Dance. You should also check your source of traffic. Oh, and David says, thanks, you intended to make it work. Best way to learn is to do it intuitively. You feel the answer is yes. Cool. Shamim says, you found 10 keywords by the KGR. Do I need to prepare 10 posts on each keywords? You do 1 post per keyword. So 10 total, but you don't have to do 10 posts for each keyword, just 1 post per keyword. How many words should it be? How many times do you need to use it? Shamim, you should check out the FAQ section. All right, check out the FAQ. It's the first link in the description, and I go over those details. Read it. It will be very helpful. But I'll tell you, 1,000 to 1,500 words. How many times should you use the keyword? You should use the keyword 1 time in the title and 1 time in the copy for the KGR phrase. Kevin says, you need to take back your statement about building any backlinks. Boom. Yeah, I knew it. I knew it, Kevin. All right. So you did some blog comments and now you're thinking about it, but not much. Cool. Yeah. Even like with a KGR, like you can do some blog commenting and sometimes that is enough. And if you're ranking number 1, here's the thing. If you're ranking as high as you think you can be ranking, then you don't need to build any links, but links can be helpful. Okay. I think we're coming towards the end here, and I will, I'm going to, what's the best link here? Oh, that's not going to work well. I was just going to plug the old Survive the 9 to 5 podcast again. I'll put the iTunes link here in the chat just to actually get some people to hop over there, download the episodes. That'll be cool. Oh, and WorldMart says, like this video. Yeah, you know what? I didn't even mention it at all today. I think a few videos, this will be a good test. Some videos I have asked multiple times, like all the time, to like it. But, you know, one good thing is I don't get much sort of like satisfaction from people liking the video so much because there's so many of them. So that's the other thing. When I only did a few videos, it's like, oh, if somebody liked it, it was a big deal, or if somebody didn't like it or whatever. But at this point, I should look back. I may have done, like in the last 2 years, I may have done well over 100 just live streams like this. And in that case, I'm just like, oh, you'd like it if you want to. I'm gonna be doing my thing anyway. So I do appreciate it for everyone who did hit the thumbs up. And WorldMart, thanks for mentioning that. Ryan says you wanted to say thanks. You made your first sale this week. Merry Christmas. Cool, Ryan. Shoot me an email. Would love to hear about it. All right, cool. So I'm out. I may be doing just random live streams this coming week and stuff. They obviously don't require preparation. I could just turn it on and start talking. But I'll generally be off, but I'll probably be doing some live streams. And probably in those live streams, I'm just going to tell people, hey, go listen to this podcast because I'm trying to get people to go to Survive the 9 to 5. Keep mentioning it. Gaz says, one question you've been meaning to ask. When you find a KGR term, does it need to be in H1, H2, H3 for Google to see it? No. Google will see it anyway, but you're asking a question that isn't going to tell you the answer that you're looking for. Would it be more difficult for Google to find it quickly when it's only used in a paragraph? So you're thinking about it all wrong, guys. So Google can find, it's literally just reading, like it can read your page just fine. It doesn't matter if it's in H1 or H3 or whatever. Google can see your whole page. The thing that you need to do is use the KGR term in the title, which is going to be an H1 for like any content management system. So you need to use the KGR in the title. Don't use it anywhere else except once in the copy. As far as Google finding it more quickly, Google will find it on its own. And it doesn't matter if it's in the H1 or whatever. But really what you're asking is it going to index and rank faster? And in that case, guys, you need to have it as the H1, which is your title. Don't put it in your title and then add an H1. Don't do that. You should only have one H1. Okay, so Gaz has it. David says, Merry Christmas. Thanks, David. Same to you. JP tells us that on his themes, the titles are set to H2. That is unusual. I believe generally it is H1. So check with your theme, but the common practice is to have your title in WordPress as the H1, the sole H1 on the page. But if for some reason your theme's jacked up or set differently, double check. All you have to do is check the page source. All right, Z-Man is out too, and I think I'll head out as well. Got a good 90 minutes in here. And just, someone who asked me about 2019 coming up and what's going on. Oh, I lost that spot. Oh, Marco Gomes said, what's new for next year? I think what I may do is, as I mentioned, like my own podcast, I'll probably have just whatever I want to talk about. But these Q&A sessions, I don't think many people do these sort of things, especially for this long, unless it's paid courses don't even do this thorough. But basically, I think I'll record these, strip the audio and stuff, or have a separate microphone rolling, and be able to publish this as a podcast. Really important for me to read out the questions. They could go rambling on and stuff, but I think there's a huge set of people that they're commuting, they listen to stuff all the time. They're outside often or whatever. They can listen to podcasts at work, and they will listen to like super. I know I did. I listened to so much beer stuff, like on and on and on. So, all right, cool. Kevin, see you later. Steven, JP. Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. And we'll see you next week sometime. Have a good weekend otherwise, and we'll talk soon.